Hi, everyone. We are going to be getting started in just 1 minute as we allow for more attendees to join the call. Good afternoon, everyone. I am J.B. Banks, the Dean of Students and Associate Vice Chancellor in the Division of Student Affairs. Today, I'll be moderating today's call. Some quick housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees' lines will be muted throughout the call. When we get to Q&A, place your question in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We will do our best to get to all the questions. If we do not get to your questions, you can reach us at colorado.edu COVID-19 website. And as a reminder, today's call will be recorded. This recording will be added to our COVID website. On today's call, we are delighted to have Patrick O'Rourke, Interim Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operating Officer with CU Boulder. We're also delighted to have Jeff Zayak, Executive Director with Boulder County Public Health. We're also joined by several other colleagues from both CU and Boulder County. I'd like to turn it over to Pat O'Rourke for some opening comments. Pat?
So thanks, JB. What I'd like to do is to give you all a little bit of an update on where we've been and some of the developments that have happened over the course of the last week. In particular, after we got together for this forum last week, Boulder County Public Health modified some of the orders that were in place for the college age population, and understanding those orders could give us a common jumping off point for today. So what I'd like to do is to share my screen for a few moments, talk to you a little bit about where we've been, where we're headed, and some of the risks that we see so that we can all work together as a community to be able to mitigate against them. Okay, so just checking with my fellow panelists, are you seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, good news. So what we're seeing there is a little bit of history that has occurred in the Denver metro area over the past several months. If you look at this graph, it shows the 7-day moving average for cases by county in the Denver metropolitan area. And what you can see is the red line represents Boulder County. You can see that for the period beginning in April 1st, really through September 1st, that there was a relatively stable number of cases that existed within the county. Starting in September 1st and really rolling through late September, there was a large spike that occurred very rapidly. That was a spike that was occurring primarily in the 18 to 22-year-old age demographic. And that's what led to both the campus moving into remote instruction status, as well as the county needing to be able to to implement orders to be able to move the line of infection down. But what you can see is that trend line is showing that the rate of infection within the Boulder community has steadily gone down. And in fact, it's one of the lower infectivity rates in the metropolitan area. That's good news. It is concerning that for many of the other major metropolitan counties that line has moved up. But we are pleased to see, largely through a lot of sacrifice and dedication by our student body, that we've been able to have a positive effect on the number of cases that are occurring within the community. Why that's important is because we talked at an earlier meeting that the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment has a framework by which they consider whether or not to increase the restrictions that would be applicable on a county-wide basis, and that for a period of time, those numbers were headed in the wrong direction. They were at a point where CDPHE, if the campus in collaboration with Boulder County Public Health, wasn't able to move two key numbers down, both related to the number of cases that occur over a 2-week period, as well as the positivity rates for COVID tests. There was the possibility that CDPHE might have to take action that would affect the entire county, or the entire city, including the restrictions upon the ability of businesses to open and people to be able to pursue their ordinary business activities. As of this morning, that 2-week cumulative incidence rate is down to 124.1. That's less than a third of what that 2-week cumulative incident rate was 3 weeks ago. So that's a good trend, and that puts us back into level 2 of safer at home, which is where we were before the most recent outbreak. And our 2-week positivity rate is 2.7% on a countywide basis, which puts us back in the green zone too. Boulder County is also in a good place in that they've had 11 days of declining or stable hospitalizations. That means that the mitigation plan that Boulder County Public Health, in conjunction with CU and the City of Boulder, worked on and submitted to CDPHE, has produced a really beneficial effect in order to be able to reduce the overall incidence of infection in the community. That's important not just for the ability of the campus to operate, but really critical in being able to protect the community. So far, we haven't seen evidence of spread from the 18 to 22-year-old population broadly into the general community in terms of infection, but it's something that we want to watch out for to make sure that our students are not playing a role in being able to either increase infection in the community generally or contributing to hospitalizations and other usage of healthcare resources in the community. What we're seeing for that positivity rate is also consistent with what we've seen for our own campus testing. We are using a surveillance test, a saliva-based test, to be able to serve as a mechanism for screening lots of students, generally more than 1,000 per day, as well as some of our critical staff, and now a population of our off-campus students, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But we want to see the surveillance rate showing also a decreasing rate of infection. And what you can see on the surveillance test is that over the past several weeks, we experienced a significant spike in the same type of time frame that you saw the spike in cases in the community. And now that surveillance rate testing is down at the point where for the last week, it's been in the 1 or 2% range. That's really good. It means that we've been in a situation where we've been able to positively affect the transmission rates, not only within the broader community, but also within our campus community as well. And I'm really thankful to the students who worked hard in order to be able to engage in proper masking behavior, social distance, make sure that we're doing the things that were necessary in order to change this back. What that has led to, given that we've had positive effect there, is that Boulder County Public Health has now put in a set of orders that is more specifically targeted to being able to relax the restrictions upon our 18 to 22-year-old population based upon how well we're doing with our rates of infection. And so the first of those orders really considers a step-down approach based upon the 18 to 22-year-old population in the community being able to be within certain target ranges. Level D would be the worst case scenario. That would be where infection rates are essentially uncontrolled, and the county would be looking at measures that are essentially the same as a stay-at-home status like we saw last March and April. Levels C, B, and A are different rates of restriction based upon what is currently going on within the community. Boulder County Public Health would like to see the CU community first having a significant degree of on-campus and off-campus testing for COVID, because we know that COVID is one of our testing for COVID is one of our best early warning detection systems for disease in the community. Looking at the rate of infection per 100,000 people in that 18 to 22-year-old population, and then looking at the positivity rate on COVID testing for that 18 to 22-year-old population. And as you can see, there's a baseline that is essentially in line with where level 1 of safer at home status, and then levels of increasing restrictions that happen from there. Those apply to gatherings. And what we're trying to do is create the space where if students are engaging in the right behaviors, we can incentivize this in order to be able to have them have more opportunities to gather. Two things are important when you're considering gathering. The first is that a definition of gathering doesn't include the employees of a business, government, nonprofit, or nonprofit entity while performing work for any entity, so that we've received questions about, can students go to work? Are 18 to 20-year-olds able to go to their workplace even if there's other 18 to 22-year-olds there? And the answer is yes. The definition of gatherings doesn't affect that population. The other thing that it does is it doesn't include any educational activities that are expressly permitted by a bunch of educational institutions, but also including CU. And so under that framework, we're in a position where we're going to be able to return to in-person instruction beginning tomorrow. And a lot of the classes that had been remote are now going to be in a position where the faculty are going to be resuming that. It's a really beneficial thing for our student population. We've heard from them that they value being able to attend classes in person, that they want to have that opportunity for interaction. And one of the things that we're really pleased with is that so far we're not aware of any cases of documented COVID transmission within the educational environment. In that type of setting, people have been really great with social distancing. They've been really great in terms of their masking. And we've been working to make sure we've got environmental safety both through our cleaning protocols as well as using our air filtration units in order to make sure that there's good circulation of air within those settings. So we have an environment that is safe for the students, safe for the staff, safe for the faculty. And we're really pleased with that. For gatherings outside of work and educational activities, what the order does is it allows Boulder County Public Health to be able to increase the amount of gatherings that are permitted. And for the last several weeks, we've really been in that range of level C, where personal social gatherings and dining opportunities for that 18 to 22-year-old population have been limited to 2 18 to 22-year-old people. If we are successful in being able to keep the disease rates down, it allows Boulder County Public Health to step down those restrictions through a series of graduated orders to allow either 4 people to gather personally for social purposes or 6, and eventually at baseline be able to reach the state dial level, which would be up to 10 people in social gatherings. That's where we want to be able to head over time. The other thing that's really important about this, though, is that beginning with level B, it would allow CU to be able to have regulated gatherings. And those are gatherings that would be both sponsored and approved by CU, where we'd be able to create structured opportunities for those type of interactions that the students have told us they want to have. Whether or not that might be having events out at Fair and Field, having a movie night, doing things that brings them together and gives them the opportunity to have what is a more normal college experience in what has been less than normal semester. And we know that this has been hard for the students. We really appreciate what they've done and appreciate the fact that Boulder County Public Health is working to allow us to be able to consider those opportunities that are going to allow us to create more social interaction, because we know what an important part of the college experience that is. I think that Executive Director Zayak from Public Health will be able to talk about his thoughts on where we are on those restrictions and what he would expect in the days to come. The other thing that the most recent public health order does is it creates a requirement for collegiate group homes. And those are collegiate homes outside of the campus property, so it doesn't include residence halls, but that have 5 or more residents living in them who are unrelated. And what this is really doing, and CDPHE is creating a similar type of expectation for collegiate group homes throughout the state, is recognizing that these homes where there is congregate living are places where there is potential spread of COVID infection. And so the second order that Boulder County Public Health put into effect is to try to create a structure by which they know where those collegiate group homes are, have them do assessments so that they can have a point of contact with the local public health authorities to be able to inform residents about the availability of COVID-19 surveillance testing, and to make sure that they're creating the conditions for those homes to be safe environment for the students who live there. And so that's also coming into effect as well. We had a large number of fraternity and sorority houses that were previously under a stay-at-home type of order. Many of them have submitted this type of collegiate group home assessment to Boulder County Public Health. Those are getting approved. The campus is working with those houses to make sure those can get approved, because we want those to be not only enjoyable places for the students to live, but safe places for them to live. And I really appreciate the work that our coordinators have been doing, and the JB, who you met earlier, and his team are doing to be able to make sure that those environments are good as well. Here's the deal though, which is, I put this picture up, which was from a bike race that happened last weekend. And what this picture shows is a guy who's celebrating as he's crossing the line. There's only one problem with it though, which is the guy who's celebrating celebrated too early, and the guy who in yellow beat him. We can't be in the place where we're celebrating our successes too much. I'm really proud of the fact that we've been able to bend the infection curve down, but we haven't won the battle. COVID remains prevalent in our community. It is going to continue to affect our student population. We need to be doing the right things to allow us to be able to remain in the classroom, to be able to create social opportunities for students, and to make sure that this college experience is all that we can make it during these times. We have to watch out for returns to unsafe behavior, especially including those off-campus parties. This past weekend, immediately after Boulder County Public Health and Executive Director Zayak announced a change in the framework to consider the restrictions that could be on the 18 to 22-year-old population, we saw one of the fraternity houses, the SAE house, throw a party that had up to 200 students there. That's not fair to all of the students in our community who have worked so hard to bend the curve down and who want to be able to have more social opportunities, want to be able to attend their classes, want to be able to have a good college experience. We will take action when those type of things occur. And there's already been 5 students who have been subjected to interim suspensions based on that party occurring. And we're going to be investigating further. And when we find students who are placing the health of the community at risk and the health of the campus at risk, we will take action for violation of public health order. That's not okay. And it's not fair to all the students who have been working so hard in order to make our campus safe and our community safe. And I want to thank them again for all that they've done. They have been a rock for us over the past several weeks, and we need to recognize and appreciate that, and to recognize that by creating those opportunities for them to be able to have meaningful interactions with each other, meaningful interactions with their faculty, and to be able to move forward. So for those who have done that, I'm really appreciative. The other thing that I see as a big risk out there, and I'm asking for your help on, is we did have students over the last few weeks who returned home, who may have gone to other communities. We know that those students are going to be coming back, and that serves as a potential place where there can be reintroduction of infection into the community. And we really want to watch against that. For those students who are returning to the residence halls, you need to get tested as you come back to make sure that we are able to have you return to the residence hall safely and without a risk to the community. For off-campus students, we now have the ability to offer broader off-campus testing. Those tests are available every day at the University Memorial Center. Please go and get tested. And that not only applies for those students who have been away for a couple of weeks, it applies to off-campus students generally. We want to have off-campus students coming and getting tested because as much as we like having the on-campus students tested, that gives us one measure. Having off-campus students, those students on the Hill tested, that also gives us an early warning system out there in the community to know what's going on. And we want to make sure that we have that, and so that we can use our contact tracing mechanisms, make sure we're keeping the campus safe, making sure we're keeping the community safe and doing the right things. And so I know that you'll have questions for us, but I thought it was important for us to kind of lay out where we've been so far, talk about where we might be going, and really to share the message to our students and for the parents here who support those students that we really appreciate all you've done. We know that it's been a hard semester. We want to keep the opportunities available, and if, to the extent you can help us do it, I really, really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That was a great way to kick this off. We also want to have opening remarks by Executive Director Jeff Zayak. Jeff?
Thank you. And Pat, can you put table 2 back up? I'll reference that if that's okay. I want to thank you all for tuning in again today. Some of the information that I have is going to be a repeat of what Pat said, so I'm going to skip through some of that fairly quickly. But our case rates of infection among 18 to 22-year-olds, as you heard from Pat, has continued to drop significantly. When I was here last week reporting to you, we were at a case rate above 1,500 per 100,000 in this age group. And as you saw from Pat, we are now down to 470.5. And that's a significant drop. That is exactly
what you were looking for, Jeff?
Let me take a quick look. It's actually table 2, which shows the restriction, the gathering.
Yep, let me find that. I'll pop it up. Let me find it and I'll pop it up for you.
Thank you. So as we looked at our indicators, we met this morning and evaluated the 3 indicators that Pat had talked about. 2 of those 3 indicators are actually within level A. And the 3rd indicator, which is percent positivity rate, is just outside of level A. So we have decided to move to level A, which is what I wanted to highlight for you. Once Pat puts that up on the screen, I'll go over those with you again, but this is great news. This is important news, and it's exactly the direction that we want to head. And as you heard, we can't give up on this. So I want to also talk about the dial, which I've talked about in the past and what Pat reported on. So from the state health department's perspective, they're evaluating us on those three things as well. Incidence rate across our entire population per 100,000, our 14-day positivity rate, which you saw Pat report on, that's in the green, and our hospitalizations. All those have come down, and we are back to safer at home level 2, which is where we started on the dial when we first started to see this surge. What we're not back to yet is we're not back to our baseline for the 18 to 22-year-olds. And on that chart that Pat had showed, we need to be down to 250. We are at 470, and I absolutely fully believe that we can be there by next week, as long as there is diligence to assuring that we're following the orders that are in place, that we are not, that students are not getting into large gatherings like you just heard about. That is going to be critical, and we know the far majority of the students in this age group are following exactly what they need to help us get there, and we need everybody to do that. But I feel very confident that we can be back to that baseline, which opens up more ability for us to get together as students and as a society closer to what we were doing before. So I want to encourage people to continue to focus on that. The disappointing news that we heard is what you've already heard as well. We heard from our police department that there were the 2 large off-campus gatherings, and it really does come down to that. It comes down to individual behaviors. What we saw is just very disappointing, and we know that if we are going to continue to see those kinds of things, that it takes for granted the students who are doing the right thing, and it puts both our community at risk, as well as our economy at risk, as well as our society at risk. And none of us want to have to continue with orders. I don't want to do it. The university doesn't want to do it. The students certainly don't want to do it. But we can't have those kinds of things happening as we move forward. It's critical that we really do follow the gathering requirements, maintain social distancing, wear masks. Those are the things that are going to stop this disease from spreading, and it's going to allow us to go exactly in the direction that we want to go. And I've told you the last couple of weeks that the decision on where we land is not ours alone. It's not just Boulder County Public Health. I want to quote from CDPHE's language how serious they take this, so everyone that's listening in on the call today is aware. And this is what CDPHE says about where we are on that dial and what decision-making authority they have. So they say, while CDPHE will make every effort to work collaboratively with local public health agencies and county officials, it reserves the right to move a county to a more restrictive level anytime circumstances warrant. That means when we are in a steep surge, they can make the decision quickly to move to a different level if they don't have confidence that that surge will be controlled. And that's serious. And this disease is serious. We need to take it serious. We also, as Boulder County Public Health, are going to look closely at this as well. So when we see gatherings, as Pat mentioned, we're going to take those serious. We are going to move forward and we're going to take action on those things, because that puts our whole community at risk. And it puts all the students that are doing the right things at risk as we move forward over these next weeks. So I do want to thank so much. As you saw from that first graph that Pat showed, we are on a strong decline, and it's because of what all of you have worked so hard to do over this really difficult time. And I know there's so many students that really want to be doing the right things, and we can do it. We can get to the baseline level, and we can do it next week if we continue to be diligent about making sure that we're following the orders, that we're not gathering, and that we're wearing our masks and social distancing. And I know we can all be there, and we can all be there together. But the bottom line is it does come down to all of you. So I want to thank the parents and the students who have helped support this and help continue to move us in the right direction. I know it's been very challenging for many of you. I've heard from many of you, and I know the frustrations that exist for both you as students and you as parents in this process. And I know that we can get to the place where we're back to the state orders by the time next week gets here, if we can just continue the diligence. I'll stop there.
Thanks both Pat and Jeff. Fantastic way to open this. Certainly I want to thank you, say a thank you to all of our students who are taking action, following the public health order and doing what they can to keep themselves and each other and our Boulder community safe. We have seen such incredible changes in the past weeks from our students, and it's because of what our students are doing, the commitments that they're making. We know this hasn't been easy for students, and these times can be unsettling and frustrating. But as a Buff family, we have remained steadfast and continued our work in supporting each other. So again, I want to say thank you. It is important that we keep this up and continue looking out for each other. As both Pat and Jeff mentioned, it is critical that you as students continue to do the things that you're doing that have gotten us in this place. While the majority of our students are taking action and following the public health orders, there have been a few who are not. And Pat talked about that, Jeff talked about that. For those, we are working through partnerships with Boulder PD, CUPD, the county, and others to hold students accountable. And we will do that. For our students who are not following public health guidelines and who are choosing to attend or host large gatherings, please understand that your actions are critical. Again, both Pat and Jeff shared that. It is important that you follow the public health orders as presented. 5 interim suspensions, as Pat mentioned earlier, have been issued from this weekend's activities that occurred off campus. There were other reports that we don't have enough information on at this point, but the bottom line is we have to stay to the line, students. I'm proud of what you're doing. We all are proud of what you're doing. As an advocate for students, and I advocate strongly for you, I'm working this semester to be a dean on the go, one that you can see, one that you can access, one that you can call. I'm working to connect with students and meet them where they are by getting out on campus, hosting pop-up hours, talking with students in different places on campus. Again, I am hearing about the students. I am hearing how they're managing through all of this. And certainly my heart goes out to our students who are struggling and such. But hang in there. We're almost there. Jeff mentioned it earlier. We are really, really making a lot of progress. And it's because of the commitment that you've made. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. We're with you. We're behind you. And now we're going to get to some questions at this time. So the first question is for Jeff and Pat. Why doesn't the number of cases in the last 2 weeks on the CU dashboard match the number of cases for 18 to 22 years old listed on Boulder County dashboard?
I can take that answer, JB. There's always going to be a little bit of a disconnect between the number of cases on the county dashboard and the number of cases on the CU dashboard. The main reason for that is because on the CU dashboard, we report those cases that have come through our own testing. So that if it's a student who got a surveillance test and then was referred over to the Wardenburg Health Center, that student will show up as a positive test for CU. For the county, not only are they getting the results that CU reports, but if you have an 18 to 22-year-old who has been tested through their own doctor, if they got tested through a community site, if they got tested somewhere outside of the CU testing system, they would show up on the county numbers, but they wouldn't show up on ours. So that there's always going to be a little bit of a disconnect there between the data sources that CU can draw from in order to be able to do its own dashboard and the data sources that the county can use to be able to do its own. One of the things we've done though over the past couple of weeks is that we have pulled together a data group in order to try to look at where we're pulling data from, both the CU, the county, and the city, to try to be able to find common data sources and to reconcile things where we can. But there's always probably going to be a little bit of a misalignment. I'd be looking more for trends than for absolute numbers.
Thank you. This question is for Jeff. Jeff, currently residents can gather in groups of 10. However, 18 to 22-year-old can gather in only groups of 6 or less. Will the Boulder County Health Department consider adjusting gathering numbers for 18 to 22-year-olds? Jeff?
Hi, yes, thanks, JB. And we will when we hit that baseline number. Can I share a screen? I could put this up just to make sure, because I don't know if Pat was able to put that slide up or not. Am I okay to share a screen here to show? Thank you. Bear with me for just 1 second. Let me know when you can see that.
We can see it.
Okay, thank you. So we are in level A, as I mentioned today, which means that our gathering has moved from 2 people to 6 people with personal social gathering. And underneath the baseline on the top number, again, we are at 470.5 right now in terms of a case rate, which puts us in level A. When we get below the baseline number, which I don't have in front of me, but I believe is 275, then we will be at the state dial levels, which would allow you to go to the state order gathering. So we just need to continue the diligence for this next week, and we'll be able to move from 6 people to what the normal gathering is under the state order. But again, that's going to take, it's going to take a focus, and it's going to take diligence with our students, and we can get there and we can do that, and that's when we'll be at that level.
Thank you. This next question is for Pat or Catherine Eggert. I understand that faculty can choose to keep classes remote even after in-person learning is allowed to resume. Can you explain the rationale for this?
So
Pat?
Catherine, would you like to respond to this? And for everyone, this is Catherine Eggert. Catherine is, and I'm probably getting the title wrong, Associate Vice Provost in the Academic Affairs, who works with the faculty on these issues.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. So the question is about faculty who had been teaching a hybrid in-person class or an in-person class before the temporary move to remote, and who are continuing then afterwards to teach in the remote fashion. So these changes do have to be approved by departments and by deans. But what we have heard from faculty is that many of their students are requesting, in many cases, the class to remain remote. So in those cases, when a faculty member could return into in-person teaching but not have any students there, those faculty have asked to remain remote. Other faculty, of course, there is always the occasional case where a faculty member's health or caregiving responsibilities have changed. And so that might also affect a decision to remain remote.
Thank you, Catherine. We're going to stay right with you on this one. Is CU Boulder considering a pass-fail option similar to the one offered in the spring semester?
The pass-fail option options were vastly expanded in the spring semester, so that pretty much any class that you took pass-fail, as long as you passed it, would count for your major. We have decided not to do that expansion in the fall. Several reasons. The main one is for students. They have to realize that spring was a COVID semester. This fall is a COVID semester. Next spring will be a COVID semester, and God forbid it may go on after that. And so many students took the pass-fail option in the spring semester that we could end up with students with 3 or 4 semesters with nothing but pass-fail on their transcripts. That's not good for students, and it's not good for their post-graduation careers. What we have done is that we have extended the pass-fail deadline permanently. It used to be the end of the 3rd week of classes, but now you have until the end of the 10th week of classes, which is still a few weeks away, to declare a class pass-fail. So this gives students plenty of time to assess how they're doing in a class, and also to work with their professors if they are not happy with the progress they're making in the class. So I would encourage all students who are facing the differences of having to learn remote or online to attend office hours, work with their faculty, work with their TAs. We are only halfway through the semester. There's lots of time to earn a great grade in your classes.
Thank you, Catherine. This is for you, Pat. When will the spring 2021 calendar be published?
So it's a very timely question. Thanks to JB and for the person for asking it. We are actually meeting with the chancellor this week to be able to look at what the options are, and that I would expect within the next 10 days, we would be able to publish the spring calendar, as well as to be able to talk about what the spring experience will look like. What we know is that we need to learn from what happened this semester, that we need to be thinking about that as to how we can create the best opportunities for education and safety on campus, and to make sure that when students come back in the spring, that we've created the maximum opportunity for them to be able to have the right type of learning and other opportunities that will make this beneficial. So not just to be on the lookout for the calendar, but also be on the lookout for some announcements as to how we're thinking about how the semester will unfold.
Thank you, Pat. This one is for Jeff. How often is COVID case data updated on the Boulder County website? And how are you addressing lag time, especially since it impacts our students' ability to engage in-person?
Tony Gassetti, who's our public information officer, is on the line, and I'm going to defer that question to her.
Hi, the website is updated every day around 3 o'clock with new data, including the weekend. So in terms of the lag from reporting to the dashboard, everything is a lag. So unfortunately, when we report it is not necessarily when the person was ill, or there's different timing in when we are notified of a report. So as soon as we know about it, it is put on our website.
JB, could I add one thing there?
Sure, absolutely.
Which is the timing on the reporting Jana just described. But what I think Boulder County Public Health and Jeff have said is that they will be meeting every Tuesday to look at the metrics and to be able to determine the levels that we went through earlier that apply to that 18 to 22-year-old population, so that each week the community can expect that information to be available on Tuesdays by noon. Is that accurate, Jana?
Actually, we'll be updating those particular metrics every Monday and Thursday at 3 o'clock. And so it will be available on Tuesday at noon as well.
And we will, just to clarify too, this is Jeff, we will evaluate and make that decision before noon. Any changes in the decision at those levels that we just showed you before noon on Tuesday.
Thank you very much. This question is for both Jeff, you and I. Are the collegiate group homes on the Hill still required to stay at home? And, you know, Jeff, I believe you, not Jeff, but I'm sorry, Pat, you answered this question earlier in your opening remarks, that what the county is asking groups to do is to be compliant and to produce an assessment, if you would, of their actions related to COVID-19. Upon receiving the assessment, then there is a decision that will be made. Either it will be approved, and at that point, they will be allowed to move on into sort of the not necessarily they'll be able to move on and advance out of the stay-at-home order. Per my understanding.
But I think just to put a point on it, which is, and Jeff, correct me, or Trina if I'm wrong, those houses that were within stay-at-home status are remaining in stay-at-home status until they have undergone the assessment and completed those mitigation plans. Both CU and Boulder County Public Health are working with those houses to be able to complete those plans, but it's really important that they do it so that they're not in violation of a public health order. They do not have the ability to unilaterally release themselves. And so please work with us, please work with the county, get that done.
That's correct, Pat. It is both a Boulder County Public Health requirement to do this assessment, and it is also now a state requirement. As of Friday, the state is requiring this assessment to be done statewide by Collegiate Group Homes. You can do it at any time. You can submit it right now. And for those Collegiate Group Homes still under stay at home, once you get your approval, which should be pretty quick, then you are just subject to those assessment parameters.
Thank you very much. Pat, this is for you. Can the stadium be opened up and utilized by all students for planned events, yoga, games, classroom, and/or exercise?
So that's one of the things that we are working on. With today's announcement, we can get to the point where the campus would be able to approve those type of structured activities. I haven't had any conversations with the athletics department yet about using their facilities, but that's something we can certainly look at.
Thanks, Pat. This was for Dan Jones. Dan, how many hospitalizations have there been since August of students, professors, or administrators?
So unfortunately, there was one hospitalization of a student, and we are not aware of any hospitalizations of employees, faculty or employees since August.
Thanks, Dan. This is for both Jeff and Pat. How do CU Boulder and Boulder County Public take the mental health of young people, or are at low risk from COVID, but at much higher risk for mental health issues associated with social isolation, into consideration?
Pat, do you want to take a shot at that first, and I can follow up?
Yeah, it's an important question, which is that we're dealing with two different but important risks to our student population. The one is the risk of COVID itself, and that is one that has been affecting not just CU, but affects the state in general, and has the potential to bleed over into the community. I recognize that Boulder County Public Health, as well as the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, CDPHE, they have a mandate to be able to address that and to be able to protect the community. At the same time, we recognize that the effects of orders that happen, whether it's a stay-at-home order that came out at the state level back in March, or an order like the one that we just had over the last few weeks, that places mental health burdens on our student population. And we're trying to recognize that there are struggles each way. What we really want to do is be able to try to, even in those situations when the social distancing is at its most, be able to provide support, be able to provide virtual programming, be able to do what we can within the public health orders to support the mental health of our community. I'm really proud of Jennifer McDuffie and our team in our medical services unit who have been there to be able to provide that type of of mental health counseling and other relief, recognizing that students do need that. And I'm really appreciative for the fact that the county has tried to come up with a flexible framework that will allow us, as soon as there are changes in disease condition, to allow for more social opportunities. Going from, we were initially at 1, then we recognized that that needed to be increased to 2. As of today, we can get it up into groups of 6. And now we have the authority to begin thinking about what are those type of gatherings where we can bring people together. All of those are efforts to try to be able to address those mental health concerns. And I don't want to minimize them in the slightest. Akira Bradley, who oversees our student affairs division, she and her team have worked tirelessly to try to be able to create those opportunities for engagement and interaction. But we know it's been a strain, and they're going to be working over the days and weeks to come to make this a good experience. So the mental health of the students has been very high in our minds, and it's a really hard balance to achieve between the threat to the community and making sure we're attending to the students' mental health needs. And it's probably never going to be a perfect balance, but it's one that we're always trying to pay close attention to.
Jeff?
Thanks, Pat. I would love to just add to that in order for us as a public health agency is a last resort. We know that instituting a public health order is going to have, again, social, economic, physical, behavioral health impacts. It is the last step that we want to have to take. It doesn't help any of us when we have to get to that point. And it's important to note again, if you looked at the trend that Pat showed in that very first graph, that we weren't in a place where we had to institute additional orders before we got to this point. And we don't have to be in an order situation if we can get all students to abide by the gatherings. We can be out of the orders. It does come down to individual behaviors. And if everybody can keep focusing in that direction, it takes us out of the current situation that we're in, which we know is extremely difficult for everybody, including Boulder County Public Health.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Pat. This question is for me. We are parents of a CU freshman who has been quarantining since his first day on campus. Thank you for enforcing consequences on students who are not following county health orders and guidelines. Our question, are attempts being made to provide consequences to students who attended those recent large parties in addition to the 5 already being held accountable? Absolutely. What we're doing is working with Boulder PD, CUPD, to certainly see who else was at that party that we could hold accountable. What typically happens in an investigation is we ask a number of questions that a lot of times names will come out. And once we get names, then we could also reach out to students and begin to hold them accountable for their actions. So the answer to your question is absolutely. This question is for Catherine Eggert. What are the odds that classes which have only been remote so far would be moved to an in-person mode prior to Thanksgiving?
So if a class has been taught remotely all semester, it's going to stay remote. The main reason there is that a number of our students have chosen to take all of their classes remotely or online this semester and are doing so while not living in Boulder. They may be living at home, out of state with family, or they may be living more locally, but not in Boulder. So those students need to be able to continue with that class. So a class's modality from before the temporary order will continue.
Thank you. And this one is for Pat. Pat, you mentioned that some students have left campus. How many first-year students are still on campus? How many do we have left?
So we know that 495 students have left campus. Our on-campus student population at the beginning of the semester was around 6,500, approximately. Don't quote me on that specifically, but it's around there. So there are still thousands of students who are on campus. There are still even greater number of thousands of students in the broader Boulder community. So there's lots of CU students there. And that's why we need to continue doing what we're doing in order to do testing, do contact tracing, do the things we need to do to support our student population. Because although some have chosen to go back home, there's a good portion of our population who's still here and we want to support them.
Thanks, Pat. Jeff, this question is for you. Knowing that COVID-19 impacts those over 70 years old the most, why focus so much attention on the 18 to 22-year-old population?
And what I'll come back to is that, as noted earlier, we have a responsibility, both from a statutory responsibility as well as an obligation to the state of Colorado, to make sure that we don't let our numbers get outside those ranges in the dial. They don't discriminate between case rates that are above those numbers when we have to move to more restrictive restrictions. And we have a responsibility to make sure that all of our cases stay within those numbers. The other thing that's important to know is that there's more research that's coming out that we're learning, and we continue to learn more and more every week about what impacts we're starting to see on anybody that's hospitalized of any age group associated with COVID. So we know that there is some secondary impacts that we're starting to see that are very concerning. And then last, we know that our students go back to families, right? We know they go back to families who have people who are at risk. And if we have a lot of cases that spread in our community and we take it back to people who are at risk, we can see increased hospitalizations and impacts all the way to death in the people who are most at risk. So it's important that we take it seriously and that we consider all the impacts across our society, not just within this population itself.
Thank you. For Pat, will asymptomatic testing be available in the same capacity to students who live off campus after the Thanksgiving holiday? Also, will Wartenberg Health Center provide COVID testing services for those who are symptomatic after fall break?
So the answer to both those questions is an unequivocal yes. Testing is something that we believe in. It's been important to us throughout the course of the semester, and I'm really pleased that we're at a point where we've increased that capacity. We were starting with a testing strategy that did not have much availability for off-campus students. We're at the point now where we're able to do 3,000 of those tests per week. We hope to be able to continue to expand that beyond that existing 3,000 for that asymptomatic student population. That's an important part. And like I said earlier, right now the question isn't whether or not we've got that capacity. The question is whether or not we can get the off-campus students to use that capacity. So if you're one of those students, come get tested. If you're a parent of one of those students, please encourage your off-campus student to come get tested, and we'll keep building that capacity out further as we can. And for the symptomatic students, absolutely, we will continue to have testing available at Wartenberg. That's part of what our mission is to be able to provide for those students, and we're going to continue to do that throughout the entire course of the semester.
Thanks so much, Pat. It looks like we are at time. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining the call today, and I appreciate you as guests joining it as well. If you have further questions, please visit colorado.edu/COVID-19. We provide a twice a week update, 10 a.m. Thursdays with the city and county, and Tuesdays at noon. You can also give us feedback by visiting our COVID website. Again, we thank you all for joining and have a nice afternoon.